I'm here.
I'm
here.
thinking, oh, yay. I was going to say, I'm thinking maybe we could get started.
Certainly. And yes, I've hit the record button, so this will be recorded, and then I'll post the recording onto a YouTube channel because the file will be too large to just email to you, and then send you a link to it.
Perfect.
Okay. And do we expect anyone else to join while we're in? Because I know I have to admit them in when they pop up on my screen, so I just need to make sure I'm on the lookout for them.
I don't think so, sir.
Okay, terrific. So if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing with me really the principal focus of what we want to accomplish here. Matt had just asked for me to get on a call with you guys. He had some questions, and so I just want to make sure that I can dig in exactly where you need me to.
So we are brand new babies to Itematica. We have no prior knowledge, and we need to be versed on how to build tests, basically. I'm sure it does a lot more, but that's where we're at.
Okay, certainly. I'm going to do a screen share here real quick. And you guys, have you had your accounts set up? So do you have access to the platform yet?
I don't know that. If y'all have sent it to us, it's buried, and it's now on fire because we're creating tests. So we may have to do that today. I'm sorry.
No, that's not a worries. I just wanted to make sure you have access to build the tests and go in on your end. So let me know when you can see my screen.
And Ms. Leon says she's trying to get in, but she needs somebody to accept her.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so I can go in and grab that. She's not on the screen in the lobby waiting to get in. Did she drop off?
She just said, I'm trying to join, but Steven needs to let me in.
There we go. She just popped up. And she is being admitted right now.
Vanessa, what I'm seeing in our system is that the staff is registered so far.
Yes, because we are supposed to be doing the uploading for the students and providing those files from our PEMS department. And we were told that they should have those to y'all no later than
perfect. Okay.
Probably Friday for a Tuesday upload, we're hoping.
Okay, excellent. Are you able to see my desktop, my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So from when you guys get full setup and get access and you log in, this is your home page to where you would access all the content. And I've got kind of the participant window open here off to the side, just so in case someone else joins, I can see it and admit them in. But when it comes to building your test, the first thing I want to make sure that you're aware of is this tab down here in the bottom side of the screen that says Walk Me Through. So this is literally a step-by-step tool for you to be able to go in and have it take you through the process of building your assessments. And so what you'll see here, it's saying, how can I help? You could kind of do a syntax search, or you can scroll through the listings of what they have set up here. And so for create a test, if you click on that, then it's going to say you're ready to get started. And when you get started, it's going to give you little pop-ups telling you where to click. So it's going to say, okay, let's click on the assessment tab. And it's going to tell me we need to go to the test manager. And I'm going to click on that. Then since I'm trying to create a test, I click on create new test. If I was looking to find an existing test that was created and edit it, then it would pop up over here if I was looking for editing. So if I click on this, it's going to take a second to load on my computer. Then you can see it's just going to take you through 100% of the process until you X out of it. It's going to tell you where to click and what to do for building an assignment. The other thing to be able to highlight for you as well is the support portal here at the top. So anytime you find yourself in a bit of a quandary, or maybe WalkMe isn't quite getting you where you need to be for that function that you're looking for, you can click on the support tab, and you can do a couple of things. One is you can launch into our online support portal, where we have more tools to help you figure out how to accomplish the task you're trying to create. You also can submit a ticket here to our product development team stating that you're having some problem with the system, and they'll look into it to see if it's a bug in the platform, or if something that was done wrong in your setup, or if there's something happening from a user error standpoint to help you through it. So you're able to submit those trouble tickets and get them into our queue so that they can respond quickly. And then you can also get into a chat function with someone who during business hours could help support you. And so with the support portal, it's just going to take you to an online site that has the different sections. So from an assessment standpoint for Itematica, you would just click on that. And then it tells you again here, like, okay, I want to create a test, or I want to release a test, or I want to build a quick answer key to an existing test. You know, those functionalities, you just click on those, and then what it will do is open up the screen and then give you kind of the step-by-step directions with screen captures and GIF images that show you where to click and what to do as you go through that process. So I like to highlight that up front, just so that you do know that there is built-in resources to help support you as you're working within the platform. Any questions about that part that I just shared with you?
Yes. Will you go back to the support button for just a moment?
Absolutely.
And go to the homepage for support.
And go back to
the
that
support portal, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So performance and rosters. Okay. So then I have another question. When you said at the very beginning, there was a tab that said, walk me through. You were going super fast. And so if you could go back to that and just let me see where you went there, because I think you're just previewing it, but when you click walk me through it, where does it go from there?
Yeah, so do you see the walk me through button here where my cursor is? Okay, so all it does is just pops open this window here, which then allows you to scroll through and select what functionality you want help with. So creating a test, or creating an answer key, assigning an assessment, you know, so these are all different functionalities within, and there's more than what's in my demo account from a functionality that's just for preview purposes. But what I did was, since I know that you're saying you want to create assessments, and so creating a test is simply clicking on that function, which then throws the tab back off to the side of the screen, and then it takes you in. So I was already in the test manager open, so it took me to that last step that I was on. But if I go ahead and close out of this and close out of the tab and then relaunch it, it'll take me back to the beginning process. So I'll click there. And then the first thing it's going to ask you, are you sure that you selected the correct function, right? So then it allows you to start. And then you'll see up here the little click assessments. So it's under that assessment tab for the platform. So all I have to do is click wherever that window pops up. It's telling me that's the next step that I click on. And then you see for the creating the test, and then that's going to open up back to the window where we just left off, to where now it's asking me, you need to name your test, because that's the first step, is giving it a name, which is right here where I would typeset that in, and then select next. It's just going to ask me, do you want to add a description? Descriptions are optional, but naming is mandatory. But I'm going to go ahead and just advance, and then you'll see it just keeps popping up where I have to go next in the process of building that assessment.
So if we were to start a test and we only got, it's a 20 question test, and we only got through 10, does it save that, or do you have to complete the creation of the test all in one step?
No, it'll save it. So wherever you stop and exit out, let me close out of the walk me so I can navigate the screen. You'll see the next step feature down here. So ultimately, if I advanced away or just went to do something else in the platform, the test builder is still open with where I left off. So I can very easily just jump right back into it. Also, if for whatever reason I accidentally closed out of it, but I did name it and move to that next step, like you said, you're 10 questions in, but maybe power went out, or you had to navigate away. You can go back into find an assessment, oh, it's gone here. You got a couple of things that you could do from your home page. You'll have your My Recent Pages here, which is one of the widgets that's on your dashboard. And then that's going to have wherever you've recently visited and done. So creating a new test, you see are the top two things, because those are the last two functions that I did. Is I started a test with the walk me through, and then came back again a second time and opened up a new one. So this would actually take me back to wherever I left off on that first test, and then this takes me back to where I left off on the current building of the test I'm in right now. So if I was all the way further up this nav bar, you'll see it's green here for the starting for providing the information. When I click next, it's going to advance into these next stages. And when it's green, I can jump backwards to that process wherever I am to go back and say, well, you know what, I already went past the item selection process, and now I'm in the assigning of the weighted value of points for each item. But then I realize, you know what, I want to go back and change one of those questions, one of those items. Apologize, someone's calling me on myself. Then you can just simply jump back to that part of the process, right? So anytime these become green dots and I've advanced past it, I can just click on that dot and jump back to that part of the test making. And then there's also a save button, you know, when you get further in or you get kind of towards the end and you want to say, you know what, I want to save this. I'm not ready to release it, because you'll see the status field here where it says editing. Until you release it and assign it, it's in editing mode, which means you can go back, or whomever you've given access to the content collection that you're storing these assessments in, to come in and maybe go back and review and edit. Then they can simply search by the name, and then doing it through the find and edit, right? So here I'm back at the top of the screen for the assessment section, right? This is where everything Itematica lives. When I open that and I go back into the test manager, which is saying, hey, I want to build a new, or I want to find something that's already created, then I would click on the find existing. And then first thing I got to do is determine, well, what subject area was that test that I'm looking for? So this was a language arts test. You know, I didn't build it, so I'm not going to find it. But then what grade level was it being built for? And then within that, was there a breakdown between, you know, the items? And then these are just some ones that were started and ended where I was just typing in gibberish. But if I grab any one of these, it's going to open up that particular test as to where I left off in the test making process, which was probably at the same spot here that I'm with you. Now this one's a little bit further with the item selection, but that's still stored. It's housed within the platform until you delete it. So even if it's unfinished, it's always there until you actually choose to delete it and remove it from the platform. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
That way, if you accidentally set something up and, like I said, you moved away or you forgot where it went, you can, you know, easily find it through your recent visited, or just go right back into the assessment and find an existing test. Even though it's not truly a test yet because it hasn't been released, it's still stored in the platform based off of, you know, what grade level and subject area you were creating it for when you designated it at the information level. So if I go back to that information screen, then, you know, if I was identifying this as a third grade math test, I would name it, give it some additional description, you know, and the description option is just there that it helps if you're doing a syntax search to find something. You can use keywords and things like that to look up tests, but I'm designating my subject area and grade level right here within the course. So if I was still in the walk me through after I named it, it would have popped up here saying, all right, now go ahead and select your subject. So when I click there, it opens up this window for all the content subject areas, right? So your Itematica does come with K-12 language arts, comes with K-12 mathematics, right? So it breaks it down from 8th, and then 9th through 12th grade is under the high school. And then you've got science for 3rd through high school. And then, of course, social studies for 3rd grade up through high school is available in there. I'm sorry, 1st grade through high school is available within the platform. So you have about 100,000 total items across the grade levels and subject areas that you can use for building assessments. I'm going to minimize this. So to move and select those items and put them into the criterion for you to choose the individual items from that subject area, I'm going to move this window here. You would just click on what you want from within this grade level. It opens it up here into this window, and then what you do is check mark it and say, I'm going to add it. And so when I do that, what it's doing is adding it into my filters, so that when I go to the next step, it's then going to say, I'm looking for items from that grade level and that subject area, and then I can go in and filter down on that. But I'm not going to go there yet until I make sure that you feel comfortable with what I've shown you so far, and if there's any questions that you have at this point.
So when I'm creating the test, am I able to share it before I release it with other test creators like Miss Saldana or Miss Muniz or Miss Leone? Can
Yes.
we all be looking to build it as a team if we're doing it remotely?
Absolutely. So one of the features, and I don't think I have the widget on my demo account anymore, but there's a widget that if they didn't already put it onto your admin track, it can be requested and they just turn it on, and it's called a queue widget. And that queue is where you're actually assigning and bringing people together to be a content collection advisory team. So it does exactly that. What you said is you might assign a couple of people who have only viewing permission to look at what you're creating and then give you notes as to suggestions or their thoughts. Or you could give them full editing permission that they go in and then they might go in and choose to add or change out some items and then update the queue with notes as to what they did and as to why. And then until you guys collectively determine that this assessment is ready for release, then you would go in and release that out either to the entire district of schools, or if it's at a campus level being built, then you can release it out to the teachers that are going to be utilizing that particular assessment, to whatever
So
scale.
is that spelled QUE or just Q?
It's QUE.
Okay, and we would request that from who if we don't have it?
You can request it through Renee, who's on the call. She's one of your support people, works in partnership with Matt, your account executive, and so she can very easily submit the information that you need that. You also could go into our chat feature and simply state, hey, I'm interested in having the queue added to my account. You can do that on our website, or you can go in through the support portal. But Renee, I'm sure you're making note of that right now, and you can go ahead and reach out to Clayton Alexander and say, we know that Jubilee, and then what we would need to know is who all do you want to have that on their dashboard to be a part of a queue builder? So if you would give Renee the names of those individuals that should have access to that as a part of their widget on their dashboard, then she can make sure that those user profiles have that turned on for them.
Perfect. So you can either type it into the chat, or if you'd rather not be distracted with that right now, just email me later. My email is Renee, RENEE, @mentoringminds.com.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions before we kind of move on to more of it?
I'm good.
Okay, excellent. Renee, are you able to pull up the participant list if anyone joins late to be able to let them in so I don't have to keep this window open on my screen?
I think I'll try. I think I have to be an organizer to do that, but I'll try.
And Matt has logged in. I see him in here, so maybe he could do that for us. So I'm going to minimize this.
I'm sorry, Stephen. I don't think anyone else is invited, are they?
I don't know.
I
think it was just us.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
No, there shouldn't be anybody else.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, perfect, wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually go through the process of building a mock assessment and take it step by step through the building process here. Is there a particular subject area that you would be interested in just building a mock assessment and viewing?
Yeah, they are, because that's usually the most difficult one.
Okay. All right, so again, I went to the assessment and simply went to the test manager button. It opened it up here as a tab. That's one of the things I really like about the platform is anytime you open up a different session, it operates kind of like its own internet browser and creates a tab. And so you can always go back and forth between each of these tabs at any point in time. It saves you where you're at. I'm gonna close out of the student tracker because we don't need that right now. So from an assessment, excuse me, to name it, I'm just gonna say it's just a test that I'm doing for a mock-up. I'm not gonna put a description in, but you could add whatever you want for it. And then naturally I need to select my course, right? So ELAR is what you're interested in. So it opens up my window here for course selection. I simply drop open my language arts. Is there a particular grade level you would like to play around with?
No, just I guess 4th maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say 4th or 7th. Yeah, 4th.
Okay. I've clicked on 4th here, so I've added it to my selection. I could add multiple grade levels to this and add that into my selection if I wanted to. So you could actually build an assessment where you're kind of mixing some of the grade level items if you're dealing with some more gifted and talented individuals and you want to go up. you have that luxury to do that as well. And you can grab items in English and Spanish onto the same test as well if you're doing anything in a dual language capacity. But I do need to check mark it, and then I need to select add. And then so now what it's doing here is it just takes me back to that window that I was on to see if I want to go back and do a description, or if there's anything that I want to change about these filters here. So the course level. So right now I'm logged in as a teacher, so that's why the course level is defaulting to classroom. If you're logged in as an admin, then it's going to default to district, meaning it's whatever you're creating, you're pushing out to all of your campuses. Or if I'm a campus level admin, then I can push it out campus wide. Teachers' default role is always going to be even if you're giving teachers access to Itematica, we do have districts that are only keeping it at the district level for building benchmarks. But teachers will always default to only being able to create and release content to their classroom, unless you give them kind of a quasi-admin user profile, which means they're still a teacher, but you're giving permission for distributing across the campus. So it's just a matter of how you want to set up those user roles, and then we can go on the back end and turn those features on for the people that you want that. The mastery threshold is always going to default to 70%, so we're really trying to mirror STAR. However, if you're doing this assignment and maybe treating it as something that's more of like a practice test, and you're going to try apply it towards maybe a daily grade, and your daily grade threshold for pass and fail is 60%, you can just change that here. And there's another place as we go deeper in where you can also make the change there as well. And then you'll see your response pattern. So if you want it to mirror STAR, where it's A through E, F through K alternating, you just select that. Or you could go with a 1 through 5 yes no entry, or just AE, however you want the student response patterns to be. So once you feel confident that you've selected the information you need, just click the next step. And then again, just reminding you, so now when I advance, I'm going to have a green dot up here, and I realize, well, wait a minute, there's something I want to change back at the beginning. I can just click here, and it's going to take me right back to that previous window. I can make that update and then move back to the next step. So where I am here right now in the process is I'm in my master filter list. So up here at the top, I have 4th grade language arts. That's the only thing that the platform knows right now, is that I want 4th grade language arts content. So if I ended up just clicking search for questions here and don't apply any additional filters, it's going to give me access to these number of items here, right? And so I don't want full access to all that content, because maybe I want to limit it down to a specific standard. So you'll see over here in your sidebar, I can open up and take a look at and grab a specific content standard that I want to work with. So if I were to grab, sorry, my glasses are fogging up out here, 410D, and you'll see it's got the describer for it. And then on the end of every one of these, it tells you the number of items within the bank that support that specific TEK. So there's 94 items for this particular TEK. And so I can just add it to my search, that blue box at the bottom of the window. And then you'll see it's up here now in my filter. Nothing's changed here because I haven't applied that filter. I haven't done the search for questions. So when I do this, it's still keeping me in 4th grade, but now it's pulling me into just the 410D questions that are available, and there's 94 of them. You'll see the display results piece here. Right now it's by type. So I can, expand on that filter. Like if I want to only sort by the level of difficulty of the items, as you'll see that's over here on the side screen. So if I want to look at in descending order of difficulty, I can do that. The question type, which is what we had, or I can break it by TEK, right? So I want to sort it specifically by standards, and that's helpful if I'm bringing in 2 or 3 different content standards. I want to make sure all the items are grouped together by those TEKs. And then the coding that's here, the item bank that you license into is called Navigate through a company called Certica. So these are their coding numbers so that they're able to keep track and update and maintain the items. But what we're able to do is preview any of them. You look at the details side over here. So if you wanted to grab, and you can see the type here of select one, we've got multiple pages. So there's some essay items when I didn't have it, when I had it only organized by type. So if you wanted to go, I want to look at the essay versions, you could go back to the filter by type, or you could advance through your screen and go to the next page. And I'm just clicking down here. I'm on page 3 of 5 right now. And I see an essay item up here. And let's see if I wanted to kind of explore what that essay question is like. I can hit the details screen, which opens up, kind of gives me that question prompt. It's going to let me know what level of blooms it's coded to. And then you do have the ability to rate the items. So you can go in and actually give this item a rating, and then you can filter and search for items based off of those that have a high rating or not. Excuse me, so it's just another way to kind of filter. But you can also hit this preview of the printable version. So that's going to open it up as a new browser tab in your browser. And then it's going to give you the detail about the teaks, going in a little bit further with the blooms, as well as if there's a level of depth of knowledge. So this is a level 3 DOK with a medium difficulty. So it just gives you the breakdown information of the teak. You'll see the scoring rubric that you could use for the grading that is built in that Certica offers up. It also gives you the preview of the passage that the item is associated with. And then it takes you down to the question stem, and then the area in which, if this was being produced as a printable, that the student would input their answer choice. Any question about that so far?
Could I preview them all at once instead of just one at a time?
It's not, you wouldn't be able to open them all at the same time. So what you would want to do is filter down more. Like all I did was filter to 94 items. But what you can also do is filter down to the resources, which is then going to be by passage. So then if you're wanting to say, hey, I want to pick a particular piece of text, or maybe I'm doing a dual text, I want to find 2 pieces of material, and then I want to go ahead and look at the different number of questions associated with each of those articles. And then I can go in and preview and add those to my filter. So that way I can limit it to just those particular items that relate to that passage. And then again, you'll see it's now been added into my top view. Until I hit search, it's still down here, it's still looking at the same information. So when I grab search for questions.
Can you show me what you did to get that filter one more time? I didn't see that.
Yes, absolutely. So it was simply when I went into the selecting of the passages, right down here in the resources, when I check marked that, it added it, and I said add, it added it to this upper level filter. And then I simply click search for questions.
So it shows up after you filtered that 4.10D, and then you could filter it again, and we just went back to that stage.
Correct. So it's just bringing you back to those items. So we no longer have visibility to those 94 items that I was looking at for 410D. We're now looking at that passage that I chose, so that I can see the questions and the items that they have available for that.
So in a non-ELAR, such as science or social, like science or math, that filter is not available. There's not another way to filter it down other than TEKS, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So when you're getting down to like math, it's easier in the sense that you're focused on a specific TEK. Typically, when you're building an assessment or a very specific number of TEKs that you're going to aggregate together, so then you're able to just filter down through to just those specific TEKs. And then if you're looking for specific question types where you want something that's maybe like the technology enhanced items and things like that, those additional levels of filtering, or you want to search by only those that are at a Bloom's taxonomy level. You'll see where my cursor is Bloom's taxonomy, and then levels of difficulty. So if I want to only pull in level 2 and 3 questions that are analyze and create levels, then I can go in and start filtering content that way to limit the items that I need to preview to see what I want to bring in.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, and then if you accidentally mistakenly added something to your filter, then you can go back up here to the top and simply X out of any item and then resubmit your filter. And then that way what it will do is then change and reapply everything down below. And you could even just say, you know what, I want to go all the way back to just my original search of the master level of the total thousands of TEKs, and then go in and then go back and make a new selection of which TEKs I want to go after. Or I want to change the passage that I chose. Then you just exit out. It immediately just goes back and defaults. You don't actually have to apply it. It's just when you get rid of it. And then I go back to those filter sections here on the side to grab that information. Now, one of the things that'll allow you to do as well, you see this content collection filter. So if you were to go in and self-author items that you want to create in the system and put into their own shareable content folder, you could go into this content collection and apply that to your search. So that way you can go back and forth between items from Itematica and then grabbing items that you've authored to include in the test that you're building.
Okay, quick question. When we were picking the content area, is ELA together? Like, do you have reading and writing separate, or do you have it all together?
So the way that Certica codes it is that, you know, they identify it as ELA, but they are ELAR. So your revising, editing, and writing TEKs are in that same collection.
Okay. Is there, well, I saw that there's essay, like when you went to the question type, there's essays embedded, but that's not the same thing as a composition, right?
Right. No, that's just meaning that it's typically what it's saying is the essay type.
Open-ended, basically.
It's an open-ended item is what it's saying. Yeah. And then depending on the type of item, they have different rubrics for scoring, you know, that you could choose to use, or you may follow a rubric of your own. And you are able to upload those rubrics into the system. So if you've got a different rubric you want to work with, then you are able to go in and upload and marry those in through the resource sections that we have here. So the resource manager is a way for you to centralize, you know, links, multimedia tools like videos, audio files, graphic organizers and things. You can centralize those into the platform so that as you're creating these tests and you also want to include a resource such as, you know, maybe some text that you self-authored, or you've got a passage from an article online that you want to include, you know, with the assignment, you can grab those and attach those to the assignment as well as when you're building out the resources. And again, the functionality for doing all that is in that Walk Me Through tab that's always going to be present on your screen. And then you can go in and say, okay, how do I add resources? So here it's create resources. And then it'll give you that step-by-step process like I was showing you with creating a test. It'll tell you click here, click here, click here, all the way until you turn it off or until you complete that resource being loaded into the system. I always like to remind everybody about that because it's the most helpful way, because you come out of an event training like this, you're going to retain only so much that you heard and then the notes that you've taken, but the Walk Me Through, you know, what I tell teachers whenever I'm with them, I say, if the only thing you remember that I'm showing you today is walk me, you're going to be just fine when it comes to working within the system. Okay, so let's just make an assumption that I'm yes, go ahead.
Steven, I'm sorry. I raised my hand in the little chat, but
I can't see that. I apologize. I don't have.
That's okay. No, I'm gonna lower my hand now that I jumped in. Sorry to interrupt you, but do you have the capacity in the system if we want to upload essays, like actual compositions? Is that a possibility?
So when you say for uploading the composition, meaning creating and authoring an item for a composition in the system, or something you've already created that is in
a
yeah. So let me show you how that's done.
Okay, well, let me explain what I'm talking about, and then that might change the direction that you take me in.
Certainly.
So what we do with assessments for the ELAR assessments is that we also include a prompt. So sort of like STAR does, right? They include a prompt, and the kids have 26 or 28 lines to complete that prompt. And then we grade that prompt according to the rubrics that are established by the Texas Education Agency.
Yep.
So is there a way to either type in one of our test questions as a prompt and allow 26, is it 26 lines, guys? I forgot if it's 26 or 28. And allow that number of lines and then let the kids type directly into it as they're taking the test online?
Absolutely. So again, under this assessment portal here, where Itematica is all your authoring capabilities. So when it comes to like what you're saying there, it's the question manager. So if I click on the question manager, it's just like the test. It'll allow me to find questions that are already authored in the system that I want to edit or create brand new from scratch. So in this example, we're going to grab and build something new that's not in the platform yet. And you'll see now I still have my test manager open over here, right? I can go back and I'm still exactly where I left off, but I went ahead and decided, you know what, I'm going to author an item and then probably bring it into this test, you know, or a future test. So you'll see again the step-by-step process here. You know, you've always got to first give it a name, right? I'm just going to call it, you know, test 1. And then this is an optional piece when you're authoring. So this is where you might want to either bring in a resource with it, like if there's an article that you're using for a prompt for them to do their writing, you could attach that to the item so that when they open it up online, they'll have a tab that has the article that they can view, and then they'll have the question prompt in the area to work from. But then you'll see from a question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Stephen. You go so fast. So I'm going to have to just keep interrupting you. And I mean no disrespect by that. I just don't want you to lose me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then we don't have an article. We never attach an article to the prompt. So it's just a cold prompt. We try to tie it in thematically to anything we've already added in the test, just the way STAR does, but it's not necessarily a requirement. So we want to be able to, if you could show me, let's add a prompt. Can we just add a prompt and see what kind of space limitations the kids have to type their responses in? Because we can't give them more than the state allows, which is 26 or 28 lines, whatever that is.
Yeah, so the way it is set up because it's not going to have like actual like lines on the screen, what it's going to be is you're going to be selecting the essay, which just means it's an open response. And then what you'll see down below here, this is the section where you might typeset in an example of what you're looking for as for what the best student response is, or you may just say answers may vary, right? That's just letting the system know you're using something separate than what you're typesetting in here for scoring. And then you can also attach that rubric, that TEA rubric that you're using into the system. So then you would tag and select your rubric. So you can see here we've got some STAR 3.4 point rubrics already kind of available within the system. And then once you've selected your rubric, which I didn't grab, let me go ahead and just look at it. I'm not going to finalize this assignment, but I'll grab the 3-point rubric. Just type in may vary.
But okay, where it says may vary, Stephen, wouldn't that be where the kids are typing in their essays?
Not when they log in. So this is you authoring and creating just the information for the system to know. So up here,
so can we put a fake prompt in there? I just really want to see what it looks like, because we're going to have to build this in about a week.
Yeah. So what would be a prompt that you would use as an example?
Okay. So write about a time when you experience something new. They're usually open-ended and pretty generic.
Okay. So that's the typeset prompt.
Okay.
Okay. The may vary is just letting the system know that it's not, because if it's a short answer response, what you put in, the system will computer assisted grade automatically and give a score for right or wrong. And that's kind of why you just put in answers may vary. You've got your rubric already identified, right? And then for your scoring rationale. And then if you want to have an example response, you don't have to, right? Because you're doing a full composition. But then here you would map it to your unit. So if I click add unit, then it's going to take me back into language arts, 4th grade. And then I'm attaching it to, so in here, if you've got certain units from like your pacing guide or scope and sequence kind of set up in the system, you could attach it to, this is going to be a part of our unit 1 collection. But typically it'll probably just say, Jubilee Academies. It's just going to be a generic folder in which you're dropping the content in. And then you would select add. So I'm going to use the Mentoring Minds generic folder for this. Click add. And you'll see up here a prompt opened at the bottom just to let me know that I've successfully added that. It doesn't change the screen or navigate away just because I may want to add some other things, right? So that way I don't have to keep going back and relaunch and go in. So it just kind of gives me that prompt to let me know that I'm ready to go if I'm done adding, and then you just exit out of your screen. Okay, and so now what you'll see here is I've mapped this item to that collection, and then I'm going to map it to the specific TEK that I'm authoring it for, right? So if this was a prompt that was being used for that 4.10D, then I would launch back in, grab my 4th grade, and then you're not going to have all this because I've got stuff from a national perspective in here. You'll just have your current TEKS bank listed as your content collection. So I'm going to grab my 2017 ELAR, and then if I click on that TEK there, I can expand on the other items if I want to map this to the sub skills within there. And then again, I've got to add. So anytime I check mark something, all it's doing is indicating what I'm going to add into my filter selection. And so I'm going to add it. Again, my little window popped up at the bottom telling me that I've selected 2 TEKs that I'm mapping to this item that I'm creating. And that's all I'm going to do. So I will close again, and it'll take me back to where I was previously. But now you'll see I've got those TEKs listed under the standards. If I accidentally grab something I don't want, you'll see over here I've got the ability to delete it. So I don't have to go back and do anything else. I can just remove it from right here. And then if I wish to add some additional details, I can down below here. So if I was creating these items to support specific accommodations, I can click on that tab and then go in and open up and choose the accommodation that this item was being authored to support. So that way I might be building a content folder of items specifically for students that are deaf and blind, or of course, they're not going to be logging in online if they're blind. But just use that as an example. I can also determine with this item which specific online tools are going to be available, but I don't have to do that here. When I go and actually release the assessment, I can determine what accommodation tools are going to be accessible for the student to be able to access. And then there's also a place within your student tracker with Itematica where if you've got students that are on IEPs or 504s that need their test taking tool, like text-to-speech enabled, we have an accommodations tab. Apologies, I'm in my backyard and we have hens and one's starting to get friendly near me. But you can enable that. So I'm just going to jump here real quick. I don't want to lose y'all's focus for where we were, but the student tracker is basically kind of our built-in grade book, and this is also where you manage the assignments that you've released out to students. You're able to go back in and edit and make changes to those. But you will see here on this tab where it says accommodations. So when I open that, it gives me my roster. So this could be done teacher by teacher, could do it themselves, or you can do it at the master level at the district and get all students, set up in the system. So once they're turned on, you're able to never have to deal with turning on text-to-speech when you release an Itematica assessment ever again moving forward, because the system is always going to treat that accommodation as active and live. Any questions about that?
So in a view-only status, the teacher would have to be done at the district level if we're the only ones seeing it.
Correct. Yeah. So if the teacher doesn't know what those specific accommodations need to be, then you would set them at the central level. That way, just when the teacher goes in and releases anything that they're assigning, the system will already recognize based off of their student ID what accommodations have been enabled for them, and then the system will turn those on, all at the same time as you release an assignment.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So jumping back to the question manager where we left off. Okay, so you'll see that, I'm not going to worry about changing any accommodations or the test tools down here. I'm feeling confident that prompt is ready to go and what I need. So I've got the current status is editing. So until I release that or change it, so like if I save this question, so I'm going to go ahead and do it here real quick. And then what I need to do is I've got it saved so I can go find it, or others who want to go in and look for it because they know the name of it to preview it. can go in, but it can't be released into a test until you change the status to finalized. So once I move out of the editing phase and then go finalized and save that, then now this question is in the content folder under the 4th grade as test 1. And then I can go in and bring that into my test manager. So I'm going to leave the test question manager open here because I've already saved the question. I'm going to save again just to make sure that it took. I'm going to go back to the test manager, and I'm still in that criteria where I'm looking for items in 4th grade. And so what I want to do is I'm going to need to actually refresh, because since I just saved it, it's not necessarily going to fall in with the collection right away. I'm going to minimize these. Now, when I refresh, it's going to take me out of this. So typically, you wouldn't go in and create a question while you're building a test, because to get it saved down and then go back and access it, you will have to kind of either finish building it without the item and then go back in and open it and then bring that item in. So I'm going to go ahead and, actually, why don't I go ahead and do that? Then I can go back and bring it in after we've kind of grabbed this and moved it forward. I'm going to go back to the first page here, and I just want to grab some of the simple response items here. I'm going to add the questions. So anytime you check mark any of these items, if you navigated away without clicking add, the system's going to think you didn't want them because now you moved to a new page. So you always want to make sure you click add questions so that they're in the queue for when you're ready to build. But as you go to a different screen or a different page, if you're looking for a different item that you were working with, it'll leave it. But if you grab these items and these were the only ones you wanted, you can click next step. It'll automatically treat what you've check marked as the items you want, and it'll pull them into the test builder.
How does it randomize the order of, like, it's not going to do all of the easy, then all of the middle, then all of the hard? How does it randomize that? Yeah,
I'll show you the part of assigning the test that does the randomizing for you as you're building the assignment. Excuse me. So anytime you're navigating to the next, it's going to always prompt you, are you sure, right? Yes or no, so that way you can go back or you can advance forward. And even if you said yes, remember, I could jump back because I can go back to any of these green dots and jump back and forth to where I was. But you'll see from a standpoint here to that question. So here's my difficulty. I check marked it. It added it to the view. You can also bring in the Bloom's taxonomy if it has it. And then you'll see these are all level 3 because I grabbed them from that area. I didn't grab mixed abilities, but let's say you had 2 level 1s, 1 level 2, and 2 level 3 questions. So once you check mark that and you know where they fell when you grabbed them, you can simply drag them and put them into a new order, anywhere you want.
Thank you.
You betcha. And then at this point here, this is where you're determining what weighted value each item is going to have. So maybe the test you built is like 4 multiple choice items and 1 open response item. Then you could choose to apply the weight by simply, I'm going to distribute it equally across the 100% is a total score. So it just breaks down each point until it totals 100. But let's say the essay item, I want to bring more of a weighted value to it, and it's going to be kind of like a bonus item. Then I can just manually typeset that and change it here, or I can identify what I want to apply for points up here at the top. And so you can see it just gives me those distributive values. And then we can drag by group. Now, the add instructions piece here, you're going to see it in a couple of areas when you're building a test. You've got it at the actual item level, you've got it at the test level, and then you've got it when you go and release the test as an option. The instruction piece simply opens up a window when the student logs in that it gets a pop-up screen before they go into the test, and you might have written some specific instructions that you want them to follow, like telling them the sequence in which they're supposed to complete their work. It's also where you could simply add do your best work, be calm, carry on. You can also input, if you're not treating this as a true assessment and it's practice, and you could add like a video here. So like if I click on the add instructions, then it gives me to add resources, which mean I could go in and grab, maybe I did a screen share of modeling, the activity, I can grab that and add it so that when they log in, they could view that, as an instructional prompt or support. So the add resources or instruction piece is all about you being able to provide things that the student will see when they log in to their assignment. And you'll see you can have that same Word document here for typesetting in. This is the same window that the students get when they respond to that the prompt that we put in. So when I go grab that item and throw it in for us to preview, it's simply going to have the prompt at the top of the screen or on one side of the screen, depending on how we set up for trailing. And then they're going to have this box here to where then they can go in and do their entering of their composition of what they're going to write. With the resource piece too, if you have the composition steps that you want to include so that it's in there where they can view it and go through and making sure they're hitting all the proper steps as they're composing their composition, this would be how you would do that as well. You would add it as a resource, and then that way it's visible to them when they're in the item online to follow that prompt. I'm going to X out of this because I'm not adding any instructions. Preview is right here. So at this point, I can go ahead and preview what this item is going to look like. So again, here's the online version of those 5 items. So I can go in and take a look, and each of these were those open response items. So this is an example of kind of when a student logs in, kind of the way they would see it. And then you'll see across the tabs here on the top, I have the PDF view, which would be if this was going to be produced in a printable booklet form. And we're going to print it out and hand it to them. So whatever I named it, that's the cover page. Then it's going to go into, because this is an SI item off of the passage, it's going to have that story. And I grabbed, I guess it was a dual text story that I grabbed. And then it's going to have the item below. So this one here that I grabbed as an example, I put in like 5 items that had multiple passages to it. So the system will automatically create for you an online, like a quick answer key. So if you are having the students do the work by handing them a printed version of the assessment, right, or that prompt, but you want them to log it in online, and you didn't author it as the way that I authored it, where we typed in the prompt and did all that tagging, the system will, whenever you build anything, it'll also create what we call a quick answer key online so that students can transfer their response into the system for grading purposes. I'm going to X out of this. Any questions about this part that I've shown so far? Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of what happens if I accidentally X'd out of my test manager and said yes, and I haven't completed it. And I want to grab that question and bring it into the next test. So I'm going to close out my question manager and realize, oh, darn it, I messed up here. So I showed you guys at the beginning, you've got your recent pages. So I can go back and pull up that test from here, and it's going to take me right back into that test. And then I have the create new question here if I want to go back in and open it up and preview it, because that's what I had done previously. But what I'm going to do is choose to go back into the test manager and find that test and open it. So that way I can see about pulling in the item that I authored. So again, everything from Itematica and building of assessments is going to be under this collection here for assessment. And then I am going to go into the test manager, because that's where I build all my assessments and assignments. And I'm going to go find an existing test. I want to refresh that. And so you'll see here I've got all the different ones, and here's my test 1 test that I had authored. So I'm going to grab that. Now it's going to open me back up into the test, and you see it's taking me right back where it was last left off when I was in there. So the system is always going to remember what you had done. Until I actually go in and delete this test out of the platform myself, it's always going to be in there and sourceable based off of the name that I created it for. And I want to go back to where I'm selecting the question. So I just clicked here, like I was talking about how I can jump back and forth. So now what I want to do is I want to go back in to the 4th grade collection, and I want to find, you've got a quick search option here as well. I think I named it test 1 for the item. And so I can click search, got test 1 there, search for question. And I may not have saved it down properly. Yeah, I didn't save it down properly when I was in there. But ultimately that item is going to be in the folder. I think I have to go find my collection folder to grab that. But those items are saved down into either the content collection folder that you created, because it's authored from scratch, and I put it into the file, which is not a part of this search folder. Has not been added to my content collection folder. So if I have my content collection folder for generic, then I select that, and then that throws it up into my filters, and then it would grab that one item that I've authored here. But since I don't have that in my filter view on my demo account, I can't grab that one that I authored for you. My apologies on that. But when it comes to your question, as I say, like the prompt, and I could probably show it better by just going into an actual student view. I'm going to log out as a teacher and log in as a student. And so when the students come into their login, and I'm not sure if you guys are using a single sign-on tool or whatever, they would simply click on the tile on your single sign-on that has the Mentoring Minds logo, and then it would take them into the center. They never have to worry about logging in. And then they simply can go to their My Assignments and then grab the assignments that are in their class sections. So I've got kind of like all the class sections that would be available in my demo account, but the student will only see their core grades, core competencies as a choice for a section that they would go into. So I clicked on my English, and then I have these assignments that are released for me to grab. And I've got kind of a mixed bag of things that have been dropped in here. This is an authored item that was dropped in using a multimedia. So students just click on the assignment and launch it, and then it's going to take them directly in. And this is an example of where I was talking about those instructions, where the, excuse me, where this pops up first before the student can go in and complete the assignment, where these are directions that the teacher is given. And so it's letting them know they're going to need to watch the video before they give their responses. And then the students close out. Now, this would be kind of an example of way that the writing prompt composition would be laid out. You would have the prompt question, and it would be up here on the screen, and it would be taking up less real estate because I've got this big video that's in here. And then the student has this to enter their composition. And this is from a math example, but you know, they've got the drawing tools. They have the inline formula for dropping in the equations, so that if it is a math question that they need to create the problems of the formulas, they can go in and drop those in. And so those are all embedded within here. And if you're asking students to be very creative with things, and it's like maybe you're doing like a research item, they can even bring in other links from multimedia into the answers that they're creating as well. But this is what the student would see when they do their composition, that that they would start typesetting in or drawing into the box their responses. Does that help you kind of visualize what the comp would look like if you dropped in a prompt and released it?
So great to see the student side. I hadn't even thought of that. Because you can't show us how to do that, I am concerned about that step. So will you or Renee be available if during the workday for us to call and ask questions if we get stuck, or we can just go into that chat to ask for
Yeah, the
Okay.
chat will take you into our customer engagement team that can answer questions. And if they're not giving you an adequate response, then you can feel free to reach out to Renee or myself for answers. I'm going to get that content folder added to my demo account so that way I can grab and pull in. And I can even shoot like a little brief screen share video and post that along with this recording as something for you to access to take a look at.
Thank you.
Okay. So from a student perspective, like you were talking about building a test and being able to save and move on and come right back where you left off, it operates the same way for a student. So they can pause their work and exit, and then they can go back in and relaunch at any time. It'll take them back to where they were.
So the is there a demo site or something that we would be able to do to train our teachers on how to train their students?
So there are the videos in the support portal on tools for that with the students. The main thing the student has to do is simply access the content and launch it and do the work. There's not a lot that you have to really show them on how to do it. But we do have a little video that goes through like log in, source your work. Those are things that are available for the teacher to share with students if they're having any difficulty getting into using and finding their work.
Thank you.
And then there is, based on the assignments that the students are completing and that is being graded within the platform, even though you're probably using a completely different resource for your analytics and grading, but students can check their own performance as well. So any of those assignments that have been submitted and the teacher has finalized those open response items, then they are able to go into their performance section and launch in to look at how they're doing on each of those assignments. The Student Center does serve as a parent portal as well. So we do have a parent and family view to where they're able to come in and view the reports as well on their children to see what assignments they've had and how they've scored. And so down here, you've got a breakdown of their performance. One is learning standards, and this is basically going to be a teak by teak standards mastery, how they're doing on the mastery. And then this test performance is essentially any Itematica assessment that you've pushed out, then it'll group it by subject. So their language arts, the different tests that they've taken, and then it gives them their scoring and where they fell, on the performance indicators. And it does it for each of the subject areas. And a nice color representation. So they can see very easily, whether they're doing well or poorly right now, and parents think the same way. And then the learning standards piece is literally taking it one teak at a time and showing, okay, here's the, what they were supposed to be able to do, right? The description, and here's how they're performing on that. So it gives them some good detailed information and good for parent-teacher conferencing.
Are you able to tell us where the video or support portal is on the student?
It's being authored right now. It's being uploaded. It's one of the features that we're still doing in our studio.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
actively daily building and adding content to our support portal right now since the rollout of this platform.
And then Miss Saldana, I don't know how to ask the question to get it to talk to DMAC, and maybe that's going to happen later as we're here this afternoon. I don't know. I don't know if we finished releasing that test.
We haven't released it yet. But
Okay.
We have not released it yet. I jumped over just to kind of make sure that we were making the connection to that question about what would a prompt look like, in the system for the student, and that's kind of the way it would look. The prompt would be in the space where the video was, and then the students have access to input their score and then submit it. Now, to grade those open response items in the system, the teacher would go to their roster book in the system. So I've got that section favorited over here, but typically it would just be in their sections and groups. They would click on their class, which opens up their student tracker. It's what we call the student tracking, which is a form of a grade book. And then these are all the assignments that I, as a teacher, have pushed out. And then you can see what's been completed or turned in based off of where the system has done some scoring. But if I want to grab an open item to grade it, I would click on the assignment, and then I have my grade button here. So click on what the name of the assignment that was released in the grade book, click your grade feature, and then it takes you into the platform window. Now this test has not been submitted, so there's no items to be graded yet, but I can click on in students and then open up and take a look at the assignment itself and, you know, and update information in here. But if it was the essay item, then it would have the rubric right here. When I click on it and scroll down, the first thing I'm going to see is the grading rubric associated with the item. And then I'll be able to go down to see what the student response was and use that rubric to assign the grade in the system. And then once it's fully assigned, the student now has access in their student portal to see how they scored. But we'll go back to releasing it, finalizing and releasing a test. So let's go back into the test manager, find and edit a test, language arts, 4th grade, bottom. Okay. So I've distributed my points. I feel the order that they're in is the order sequence that I want the assignment. So now I just move to the next step. This next step, we had talked about changing the score and the performance schedule on it. So this is just a stop to make sure, is this the proper scoring and cut score that I want to be able to do on this assignment? It's going to default typically to, you know, that 70% format. And then the greater than 60 is for passing. And so this is just kind of a pause if I want to make a change. Otherwise, I just jump to the end, which is where now I would do the finalizing of that test and release it. And so the DMAC question that you have, I heard you state, are you talking about getting this test into DMAC where students access it there, or are you talking about the score? Like, how do we get the data into DMAC for your grade book?
We want the data in DMAC.
Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be an export-import capability. So it'll either be a CSV file export and upload. You know, we as a company are perfectly willing to set up an interface between DMAC. We have not found that DMAC is willing to set up an interface with us because they treat us as a direct competitor. But they're fine with, you know, the CSV import export so that their system is housing the data. So it's a matter of simply doing the CSV file export out of the system.
And when I were to go and, let's say, export the CSV file, is it gonna, am I gonna have to do this student by student, or is it, will I have the option to do it by like grade level?
Yeah, you have filters as to what, you know, macro at the whole source down to the micro down to the individual. So it's a matter of, you know, what report you're pulling up and data that you want to export out. So yes, you're able to get it from the whole view, or you can segment it into smaller views in your CSV exports.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
You are very welcome. So from a releasing standpoint, the finalizing the test, just now I got everything green. And so, you know, if I want to generate this as a printed test and I want to generate a pre-slug scan sheet for students to input their scores, you know, then I can go ahead and check mark that and print off the scan sheets. It's going to be barcoded with the student ID information already in so that you can pass it out to the kiddos and then have it easily scanned back into the system for computer-aided grading. Or I could use the quick answer key option, which is here, and basically have the students release that and have them log in, even though they're working out of a print material, inputting their score online for computer-aided grading. Or I can just simply release this as an online test and just release the test. Excuse me. And then it's going to take me into kind of my assignment options. So you'll see here again, those easy steps to follow are laid out. In step 1, this is where if you want to secure the assessment online to where when they log in, they can't navigate away to any other site or screen until they exit the assessment. So you're able to secure them into the environment. I can randomize the problems here from the online taking so that no 2 students are going to be looking at the same item at the same time. If I'm printing it, I can also do that where I'm randomizing it to where I've got a Form A and a Form B and even a Form C of the same test where the items are different. So that way, again, when I'm passing out, kids can't look on each other and cheat. So those selecting options are just here on that first step from the assignment details. If I had already check marked my student, when we talked about earlier for accommodations for text to speech or any other IEP accommodation, I don't have to do anything here for those students. It's already ready to go. But because it's an assessment, I'm not turning on any of these for the rest of the class. So I just bypass that step. And then when you create your assessment and you're releasing it, you also set the time parameter as to when they will have access to it and when they will no longer have access to it. So if you're creating this for a 6-week benchmark and you're doing it early, like 3 weeks early, well, you can get it all created and say you're good to go. And then you can go into the system and get it prepared to where it won't be available to the student until the start date and time that you say it is. And that's when the students can log into the system and then it'll be available to launch. And then you've got the end date in the sense that after that date, they can't get into it unless you reestablish a new end date for that student. You know, maybe they were out sick on the day that this was assigned and you need to come in and make up the work. So you have those filters. You also have the ability to turn it into a timed assignment. So if you were to change it to timed here from your dropdown, then it's going to tell you how much time do you want to give them, and then do you want to display a warning on the screen? And if you say yes, then it's going to, you can indicate how many minutes, right? Is it going to be a 2-minute warning, 5-minute warning, whatever the case may be. So that's an option for you in there as well, as if you are doing this as a restricted time limit. The instructions again. So this is that space as I'm releasing it. If I want to add any instructions so that when they log in, that gray window pops up first and they have to read or review. You are able to attach links, documents here as well. So if there's a particular graphic organizer that you want them to use, so that they might have to do that in hands-on as a part of the assignment, you can attach it there and then they can open it in that gray box and download it. Or it'll open in its own tab, and if they have annotating capabilities, they could annotate it and then save it back down and push it back for you to grade. But that's just an option. You don't have to do anything with instructions. It just gives you that option there. And then when it comes to releasing, so you have the ability to, it'll default as a teacher to their name. That's who they are. But as an administrator, you could pick which class and which teacher this is being created for, or you can filter by school. Within the classes, if you've got students that have been grouped together or paired off or partnered and you're wanting to release this to that particular group or pair, then you can go in and select your groups here to make that assignment. And then ultimately, once you've grabbed them and put them into your filters of where you're releasing it to, just like when we were building the test, I need to apply it, and then it opens up those groups that I want to release this assignment to, and then I just check mark those particular classes or groups that I want this to go to, and then I simply release. And when I hit release, it's now based on those filtering criteria that I put in there, accessible based on when I said it will be accessible.
So it's already created based on a grade level, so it would automatically be provided to that grade level as long as you click the teachers, or could you just share it to an entire grade level?
You could share it to an entire grade level. So based on how you group up from an admin, because I don't know if you guys are using a student information system for rostering. So based on how you've got those listed in the SIS is how your sections are set up in your admin. So you could grab 3rd grade and say, that's where I'm going, all 3rd grade. But you also have the ability to say, this wasn't created for all 3rd graders. This was created for 3rd graders that whatever reason you're targeting this assessment to that group. So then you can filter down to, that class or to a particular group of students within that class. And that's these filters off to the side here where those would be listed, and you just check mark those kiddos or those groups or classes.
So our CSV for the kids, we need to send to Hartley, right?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
We need to send our student CSV list to Miss Hartley. Is that correct?
Yes, Annalise.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. She can help get you set up and rostered. She's like neck deep in all that. So the sooner you're able to get it to her, the sooner you'll be able to, start getting in with the kids and releasing stuff.
Could we create tests before the kids are uploaded?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. You can create everything, and you just won't release it until you have the kids in the system. So it'll all be stored within your content collection. Or folders that you've set up, or not even, it doesn't even have to be in a content collection. If you've created the test and exit away, just like I did before the time, it's still there by name. You just go in and find and edit, and then you can release it from there.
Do you currently have data in this demo site under performance?
I do.
Can you just show me how you'd run that CSV file?
Oh, so I don't have the import export function in my demo account. I've got fake data in the system, but I don't have turned on for a demo the ability to export it out. But
okay, can you show me what the data just looks like?
So this is from a teacher login view. So I'm going to log in as an admin so that you can see kind of more what you would be able to look at. Because teachers aren't going to have the full on view. They're going to have their classes. So this district quick launch, this is an example of an out-of-the-box report that's set up and ready to go for all of our customers. The algorithms are built within the platform, so as content is being graded, all this information funnels directly to these reports. And then you have lots of filtering options with the reports to filter down to individual students who are Title I on 504, third grade African American male, and then generate a report on just that criteria, and then it'll pull in the info. This particular data file in my demo account is large, so that's why it takes a minute to load. But when you are connected to a more main internet connection than my remote Wi-Fi, it loads a lot faster. But you'll see it's a drill down report here, and you've got your filters on the side. So this is where you can then start saying, well, I only want to look at data based off of certain criteria, certain schools, certain performance bands, and then as you set that filter here, it flows through to all the additional reports that you can drill down into. This first report at the top is basically just looking at everything that's been assigned across Jubilee, if that would, for your example, and it's going to group it by grade level and then subject area within that. And you can select any assignment and drill into it, and then it's automatically going to link you to additional data and reports that you can view and look at the system. But when it comes to exporting the data, you're not going to go into these reports. You're going to go up into your performance section up here, and then this is where you're going to go in and grab the data here. So however it's being organized for you within your specific setup, it'll be under your district assessments, I'm sure, is probably how it'll be organized. And then you would be able to go in and start grabbing that information. And then, like I said, in this demo account, they've just got a lot of extra stuff thrown in here just from a showability purpose. This particular account isn't designed for training how to do the exact export functions, but we can set up something for you that will model it. And I'm sure they'll put it into the walk me to where it'll give you a step-by-step click through for exporting of data. But based on what's been organized in here, so this, looking at a campus level or district level reporting, then it does give you additional filter parameters of how you want to look at that data. And then it's going to give you the option for run report. I just don't have the export function on this. So you would have run or export for that data.
Okay, and so just to clarify, the plan is that there may be something in the walk me through it component if I run into problems once we go live with this, or I would just reach out to support.
If you don't find it in here, because like I said, we're still building and adding those WalkMe's into this. We have a person, Nikki Caballero, that's almost her primary responsibility is she's coding and inputting that for each of the steps. So in my limited demo view, I don't have that specifically in here. But if it's not, you can reach out to Renee or use the chat, request, and someone can get with you and take you through it.
Perfect.
In the live environment.
I think I want to, as I've been listening, basically what we're finding is the more people that are starting to use this, the more questions we're getting, and people were saying, hey, it would be nice to have this, and hey, it would be nice to have that. So we're just trying to add things as people are requesting them, and people are requesting, quite a few things. So I just want to make sure that y'all are aware that we're doing our best to kind of keep up with the requests from people that they're asking to add things to the system, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, so like I said, and what Matt was indicating, so we're continually adding more of the click-through WalkMe demo tools in here. The export function would exist within your reports section, just because they're not allowing me to export data out. That's been disabled within mine. And then based on your setup, when they first get your profile up and the data, you're going to have a different collection or folder that would be for Jubilee. And then when you click there, it's going to then allow you to filter what data do I want to pull out of this platform to then put into a CSV file and upload into another.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So just to kind of summarize, because we've kind of taken you through the step-by-step process. And the nice thing is the test creation piece is in here, right? So if you lose your notes and totally go blank-minded after this call and you're like, but we've got to get in there and start creating assessments, you can just go right to that WalkMe, go to create a test, and it will take you through 100% of the steps all the way up through release, so that you can know exactly how to do it. And it's always on, so and you can disable it at any point through the process by just Xing out, because sometimes what you may find is, gosh, I can't remember how to get to it, or I know how to get to it, but I know there's a step that I can't remember. You can turn it on and then go through until you get to the step that you didn't remember, and you say, no, I got it from here. You can go ahead and close it out. But what's nice is if you're in the process and you've advanced forward and you're still confused, and if you hit WalkMe and select it again, it's gonna know that you're already open and in the test creation, and it's gonna go to the spot where you're at, and then can continue you forward. So it's a really awesome tool for just helping you through anything you're trying to accomplish inside of the platform. You won't have to worry about anything on the curriculum tab here, unless you're wanting to access the lesson planning tool that's in the platform. So there is a lesson planner that is embedded within the platform. You have an administrative level version where you can kind of set your hierarchy, and then teachers have their teacher level where they can kind of plug in the pieces that they would put in. But the only thing you would need over here under the curriculum side is if you are authoring your own items, and you want to create and manage those content collections, those shareable folders, you'll see you've got your collection manager here. And then this is where you would add and tag specific content into it that you've authored in there. And then you would also bring and assign role and responsibility to people that you want to give access to that content collection. It's kind of part of that queue process that we talked about early on. If you want to build, an evaluating and editing queue of people, it's also going to connect to that content folder that you're launching in the system. But for the most part, as it relates to Itematica and just using the item bank, this section is the only place you need to go to. And if you're not planning on, loading resources and authoring, then you'll just go straight into the test manager, and that's what gives you access to all the items of the Certica Navigate bank across each of those content areas. The one thing that I had not shown you when it comes to the Certica Bank is that if an item you feel needs to be modified from the bank, you do have the ability to duplicate that item and then edit it and save it down under a new name. And then you can use those edited items in your assignments. So they do have, with the contract that we made with them, it does allow you to do that editing piece. And so I'll show it to you, quickly here in the sense that I'm just going to go back in and grab, the assessment test that we were kind of working on and building earlier. I'll just grab anything in here for right now. Yeah. So on this particular one, if I want to go back to the select question process, I'm going to add the filter here. So I can click on any of these items, like I've viewed the details and I feel like this is good, but you know what? It doesn't have the rigor that I want, or it's maybe slightly off of what STAR release items show it should be or something. You can just click on the item directly and then it takes you into the question manager, right? So now, but it's bringing the content in. So you can see it's already got its Certica name there. It's got the resource, which is the passage that's been attached for the question, and then the question stem. So all you would have to do is come up here where you see these icons, right? So you have your copy icon. So if I click copy, it's just going to take all that content, and now it's going to open it up and say it's a copy of. So you can rename that to whatever you want to use to find the item when you save it back down. And then you can come in and basically edit anything about the question. If this was a selected response item, you could go in and choose to change the order sequence of the questions, the response items, or even edit the response items. So that way you can make sure that the content is fully in alignment with what you want students interacting with. So that's a really nice function that the platform, A, has the authoring capability, which allows for the editing, and B, that Certica did allow in our contract agreement our customers to copy and edit those items and save them down. Now, Certica still owns those items, even though you've edited and changed them since it started as their item. If you ever move away from our item bank and our platform as a resource for you all at Jubilee, those edited items will stay. However, anything that you've authored from scratch is your intellectual property. So if you were to move away and go a different way, we would provide those items back to you in whatever format you want or need to be able to access and utilize them, because that's your property. I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted those pieces there for you. Any questions that I can address? Anything else you want me to dig deeper in on?
Can I have my username and password? I think it's what we uploaded, and we have like changed me at 22 or whatever. That's what we're talking about for our login. Is that right? Or is that different than Itematica?
Yeah, so that I don't know. I don't know about your passwords in those pieces. Now that would be
I can check it. Give me just a second. You're right at that password that you mentioned is the correct one, and the login should be your email address.
Look mine up. You don't have to look it up, Miss Dietrich.
That's okay. I'm not able to specifically see yours, but I do think we entered a generic password into the system for you.
Yes, it's our email, and then whatever the change me is.
Yes. And is that what you needed to know? Was that change me?
I'm sorry?
Did you need to know specifically what the password was?
I can look it up.
Okay, I'm happy. I'll drop it into an email for you. It's easy. I'm right here.
I don't know if we've asked for Saldana to have access. Like, I'm thinking through it. We've done teachers, we've done administrators, we've done coaches.
I don't have access. I've tried.
Okay. So I'll send an email to Miss Hartley, or I'll do a CSV file. It's just for one person though. So I'll figure that out for you, Miss Saldana, and I'll report back.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. One thing you'll notice that's going to be happening over the next few months, because we're doing updates to the system and adding some new features. So sometimes when you log in, Walk Me may pop up automatically, and it's going to tell you that there's some new features or updates to the system, and then you can click on it and it'll highlight. A couple of things that are being added are to the dashboard here. We're adding some widgets that are having graphics and dials and information with regards to, you know, the assignments that are been assigned, that are pending, items that are awaiting grading will all be here on the screen for you. So you're able to very quickly as a teacher log in and go, oh, I've got items that have been submitted that require my grading. They can click and jump straight to it. And then there's also going to be kind of in this large open gray area is a highlighting of the TEKs that students have been exposed to that students are performing well on, that are doing really well, and then it'll highlight the TEKs that we have a large number of students that are struggling with. So that's going to be a little graphic widget that's going to pop up here as well. So you'll notice some changes happening over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks as we drop in some new things that make user more friendly and more visible.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Now, one thing that I think you guys might find useful, I know that DMAC, again, is your system for grade booking and analytics, but within, and it's going to be at the teacher level that this exists because it's based off of the assignment. I'm going to log out and log back in as a teacher from the admin. There is a functionality that's called Reteach and Enrich that's in the system, in that when a student turns in an assessment and it's been graded, then the teacher can go into that grade book and open up that assignment like what I showed you earlier. I'm waiting for my little thing here to submit. And you can access, it's kind of a prescriptive diagnostic aspect within the system. So what we're able to offer is the ability to take a look at that assignment. So like I'm going to just grab, click on an assignment that's out there, and you'll see where it says Reteach and Enrich here. So this functionality is basically taking that assignment that that the student, or that assessment that the student completed, and then it's going to group it by question and TEK, and then it's going to group the students based off of who got it right or wrong. And then the other piece it's going to do is, if you do upload any resources that are for either intervening or extension type activities that have been mapped to that TEK, those will be listed here. So as a teacher, I could go into this assessment and see the students that are struggling, and I can kind of group them together. So I can click on the plus sign and create a new group of these kids. And then I could go right into these resources that have been uploaded that support from a intervention or modeling or things, and assign that or work with the students in that small group to help meet them at their point of need, or have them log into something that's like an extension type thing where they can do independent or collaborative work while I do go back and do intervention. So the system will grab and identify that for any assignment you push out. And it'll be the same for items that you author, as long as you map that item to the TEK. And then what it'll do is, and if they got that item that you authored wrong, it'll group them, but then any resource you've loaded into the system that you've mapped to that same TEK will be listed as something that they can access right here from the screen.
Will you go back to where you pulled that pop-up window up from?
I sure will. So I'm back in the grade book. So I'll go. Yep. So it's, and then it's just clicking on the assignment, right? Whatever assessment you've pushed out, that's what's listed across the top.
Can you grab that data to upload into DMAC?
The Reteach and Enrich, I don't believe is exportable in that way, because it's an item analysis type view with students grouped together. I'll put in a ticket as a request that might be something for them to look into, if it's possible to put into a CSV export that is uploadable, because it's going to be about formatting. How do we get that in a format CSV that DMAC would recognize, the headers and the way it would go in.
Right. I'm trying to think if there is a component in DMAC that would line up with I mean, DMAC has an item analysis that it does, but not as specific as what you are modeling here.
Right. And so like when I'm looking at this feature, so like right now there's 2 features that I'm thinking about that really limit the teachers. So it's my understanding, Ms. Saldana, that the teachers aren't really going to have access to this because it's going to be the district platform for test creation, which I get the purpose of that, right? But the assigning online, we are going to have to figure out how those accommodations will be provided, because that's coming up to director's level. That's going to be a large beast. And now all of a sudden, what I'm seeing are resources and pieces to support the learning that may be helpful in RTI or data desegregation or PLC data talks, those kinds of things. And so these are major pieces that people that are not like at the local level are looking at. And so those are some questions that I'll have about accessibility.
Right, and I think that would be a conversation to have internally. Maybe if we can't put it into DMAC, there's still a way that we could share it where it needs to be shared, because this is good information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's because I know they take all the export stuff out of my display because this is, you know, protected data. Yeah, I'll check to see if they can add just an export. You know, I mean, you could also, I mean, part of the challenge though is from the export is the reason why it's housed and stays in here like this is because you do have the question, you have the item card that you can view, so you can have the STEM and the choice and see what kids group together on that. And if this was ELAR, it would have the passage here as well. So you have that data, and that's all housed together. I don't think they would be able to export it in a way that, because then it's exporting the passage for each item, and then the question, you know, so that's the challenge with that, because it's meant to be, you know, viewed within a software solution. And then the access to the resources that you want them to have through this view, you know, again, they'd have to be able to link to it, so therefore they'd have to be in the platform to do it.
So I have many questions, but I want to play with it first, because the questions are things you've already shown, but I know that I'm going to run into as I'm creating and developing tests.
Yeah.
I don't even want to get my head wrapped around what it's going to look like from the student side yet, because I got to create the test. So I'm going to tell you right now that I need to follow up, because if it's just a webinar, and I mean, our kids are so savvy, our teachers are too, they'll be just fine, but it's still, I feel like Ms. Saldana agree or disagree, but I'm thinking we need to like put an action step in place. So, because like we're meeting as soon as this meeting is over about blueprints, and we've been meeting about testing. And so Ms. Leone said, in about a week, we're going to be doing this. So I'm like, oh goodness. So I think that for me, like, I know I'm going to need like 1 or 2 follow-up sessions. Absolutely. And I know that when I'm creating, I'm going to be calling.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. That's what we're here for.
What do you think, Ms. Saldana, about like action steps? Like, we have our mandatory testing meeting tomorrow. I wonder, you think I should go put this on the agenda so we can like talk about an action step for particularly this week?
Yeah, I think you should put it on the agenda. I think we can have conversations about it. I'm a very tactile learner, so I'm just waiting for the access so that I can play with all the components of it.
Yeah.
And I'm an independent learner and a tactile learner, so as long as I've got something that I can follow along with, I think I'll be okay. But yeah, I feel that, you know, we're all different learners, so yes, it's definitely having to have something in place to accommodate all the different learning styles.
Do you guys operate with an LMS system? Do you have a learning management system that you're pushing content out to campuses? Like Google Class or Canvas, Schoology?
That's what we're using. It's Google Classroom.
Google Class.
For 2 through 12, and it's.
So the reason why I asked that is,
JoJo.
yeah, we are finishing up our certification with Google to where there is integration with our platform in Google Classroom. So when you're talking about the students, the way that it's going to be set up is that the teacher can actually release the assignment to Google Class. So the student would actually just go into their Google Class like they always do and click on the assignment from there, and it'll take them directly to the content. And then when they submit and submit the assignment, it takes them they just go right back into Google Class. So that's one of the nice things there from that integration. So we'll be able to get that set up here in the upcoming weeks. We're in what they call the QA process, just testing it to make sure all the bugs are worked out. And then we're going to be rolling it out, I believe, by the end of next week. So we would be able to set up a training for that as well. So that way you would be able to, if you're pushing those assessments out through Google Class from your level, you would be able to do that.
Okay.
So any other questions that I can assist you guys with? I know that hindsight, you're going to have a lot more questions as you get into the system. So, we can definitely schedule another, set aside an hour, maybe next week or something, just to say, hey, let's get together, call it office hours, aggregate your questions and support you on that.
Well, we understand that you're going to be out of state next week, so we can reach out to Renee.
Yes.
And we can, follow up with her or both of you, upon your return for our next steps.
Perfect. My week right now is pretty wide open. Do you want to put up a scheduled time for that, or just wait and see how things go for you guys? Or not that you can't reach out to me in addition to that time if you need something in the moment, but.
So
I think that we should definitely set up at least an hour sometime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's do later in the week, like Thursday or Friday, just because
it's a 4-day week. It's short.
Right, it's short, and so we want some time to play with it.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so Miss Saldana, I'm looking at I'm thinking it's you, me, Grace, Miss Leon. You think the same group at this point?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so do we want to do it right after our testing meeting on Thursday morning? Like 10 on the 10th?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, because I have, all of us are free at that time. So Renee, hopefully by then we will have determined, because I've already gone in and put Itematica, create action steps timeline, and then I said determine Q widget, because we need to talk about that. And so we should have those decisions made, and then we'll have had a second meeting by then. And we'll also have had our blueprints and our 6 weeks testing meetings, and we will have already started creating tests. So we'll probably be calling you before then, but we'll also have, we'll also be in motion. The other thing is all of us, I think Miss Saldana's probably been in the building for weeks now, but I will actually, so our doors open next week as well. So it'll be a very different week for us, because we're going from virtual to virtual and in person. And so let's set that up. But Miss Dietrich, will you be sure to invite Miss Grace Lyman, even though she's now Miss Muniz, Miss Saldana, if you'll post your email.
I was able to pull it off of this meeting. I just have Monica Saldana at Jubilee.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, perfect. Got it.
Grace.Lyman, and then of course Arcelia.Leon, and then myself. And then the only other thing is, Renee, could you help me so I don't have to do a whole CSV file, because I have not learned how to just manually enter a teacher or an administrator from the website. So I'll do
Don't
CSV,
worry.
but it's
Don't
only
worry about
for
it.
one
All I
person.
was,
Can you help
yeah,
get
all I was
mine,
lacking was her
Danya?
email
I need
address,
her.
and I
Oh,
used my little brain and found it. So
so you'll get her user and password. to send.
I will send that to Annalise for you.
Thank you,
Yep.
bless you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so I don't have any other questions right now, but I will. What are your thoughts, Miss Saldana?
I don't have any other questions either. I'm sure that once I get into the system, I will have questions. But no, I'm good right now. It was a very informative session.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
And I wish, Renee, when we first met and you walked me through the prints and then you walked me briefly for like 12 minutes through the online. I wish, I wish that that's been so long ago, like those connections, because
yeah, no way.
But like now that I've seen this, I'm like, okay, now I need to go back because I have questions about the teacher side again. So anyway, I will come back to that.
We'll be here for you. There's no way that you could be expected to like commit all of that to memory. That's why we're here.
Yes.
No
All
worries.
right. Well, I really appreciate